Hashim PhD atas masa yang Puan bagi. Saya tahu weekend banyak sekali yang mau dibuat, tapi dalam rangka memperbanyak pahala ini kita sharing knowledge, kita guna masa tak terlalu lama. Therefore, I think this is the second time for Puan Taiba atau the third, karena ini sudah berlangsung 1,5 tahun. Jadi episod hari ini sebenarnya episod ke-300. Tetapi ada 2 episod sebelum ini postpone karena yang satu kena demam, dia tak enak, badan tak boleh. Yang satu lagi badannya tak apa-apa tapi suara yang tak keluar. Jadi ada 2 kena postpone sehingga mestinya sekarang 300, makanya tertulis 298 episod yang hari ini yang semestinya sudah di scheduling 300. Okey, tanpa membuang masa lagi kita jemput Yu. Sila. Okey, very clear.
Can
Very clear. Okay, very clear.
Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. First of all, thank you very much for Prof and all to invite me to give this topic. Actually, this is not the knowledge, but I think this is more to the experience. Anyway, our topic today is regarding food supplement and nutrition. Okay, during give birth, breastfeeding, and also during lactation. Okay. I think from this picture we can see how we can see the face of the mother and then how she cuddles the baby with all different types of food. That means we know that during pregnancy until we give birth or until whatever period, the food supplement is very important. From this diagram or from this, we can see from these pictures or these slides. Okay, from my experience, this is a share knowledge. Okay, during why the food, okay, the supplement or the nutrition is very, very important. Okay, because we can see during the postpartum stage, the digestive system of the mother is quite weak. Why? From my experience, when we have a pregnancy, we have a morning sickness, we have got severe vomiting sometimes, and then we loss of appetite. And then during the process of labor, we have to use a lot of energy to push to our baby. And then during that labor also, we have a severe blood loss, and then we have profuse profuse sweating because we want to push the baby. And then during postpartum, we are very weak because we have to take care of our baby, and then sometimes we got insomnia. What is in the layman word, we unable to sleep properly. So sometimes therefore it is very important for the young mother especially to take a well-balanced diet. In this case, what I mean, it is beneficial to have a sips on warm water at a regular interval, regardless whether before you get up from the bed or before you want to sleep. Adequate water, why it is important, it is helps or assists in the digestion and also to ensure that there is no shortage of breast milk. This is important in preparation of breastfeeding and also during postpartum. Okay, how do you want to ensure that the mother, okay, how you want to ensure that we advise the mother to have adequate first sips of water, and then we also must have healthy snacks. Okay, healthy snack, that means advice or that one is the current practice. Okay, when we can take, it is from the midday or afternoon snack comprised of nuts. Why? Nuts is a protein. like cashew nut and almonds. I think Indonesian got a lot of cashew nut because recently I got two PhD candidates from Bandung. Okay, before she went back last Friday, so she gave me a lot of nuts. Okay, this one, why nuts and almond or in terms of protein is important because it can provide essential fatty acid and aid in the adequate production of breast milk as well. So example, if the mother didn't prepare during pregnancy, okay, during puerperium or during lactation, therefore not enough milks. When not enough milks, we got a problem to breastfeed the baby and then the baby is not growing well. So we have to change to the artificial milk formula that is not so good for the baby. Because in Malaysia, I think in Indonesia, we did encourage for the baby-friendly hospitals or exclusive breastfeeding. That means we have to encourage the mother to give exclusive breastfeeding from the birth until 2 years. If the milk is not adequate, so the baby struggle to get the milk, and then the baby not have proper growth and development. So mother have to change to the artificial milk formula. That one, the protein is not so good because the protein is the artificial milk formula contain of some protein that one is quite difficult to digest. And then we also have to take a lot of green vegetables. Why green vegetables contain of vitamin C? Example, fresh green leafy vegetable should be essential part of postnatal diet. I think not also to postnatal diet, but also during the antenatal, during the labor, during the postnatal, and during our daily life. Because these fresh green leafy vegetable have a rich sources of vitamin, minerals, and other nutrients. Spinach is a great sources of iron and calcium. I think Indonesian mostly like the spinach. What we call in Malaysia is bayam. And then adequate protein, postnatal diet must have protein as well as adequate and balanced amount of milks, bean, cereals, egg along with fish and meat. What we can advise to the mother, we don't advise them, okay, to take everyday meat because sometimes we must consider regarding their social working life, their economy, their education status. But we must advise them to take whatever the diet, okay, adequate protein, many sources available. So we must advise or we must encourage the mother or we ourselves must take all the diet or the protein. That means consider with our level, our economic status. Okay, this is very important. Okay, for all categories of mother or woman or any people, we must avoid junk food because snack should always be healthy. Avoid junk, aerated drinks and items made from refined flour as they do not have any nutrient value like this one. We can take, but not every week or every monthly. We can take roughly about 3 months once only. Snack or fresh fruits and nuts or fruit juice should be take because in this one we can take alternative. Can opt from oats forage. Okay, example during afternoon or during different meals. Okay, this is what we practice in Malaysia, but I do not know whether it is being practiced in Indonesia. We always encourage the mother to have a G in a moderation. G in a moderate amount is very important. Okay, have its own value because it aids to the body in regaining its strength and repair the muscle which goes during our process of labor. Example, during process of labor, sometimes the baby's head, okay, got laceration. Okay, no, not the baby's head, sorry. The vagina wall got laceration because we have to push down. So we want to repair, okay, this laceration of the muscle. So we did encourage the mother to have a balanced diet, especially in D, but in a moderate amount only. Okay. So postpartum, in conclusion, postpartum body will be prone to constipation. Therefore, avoid spicy food and chilies, especially the red chilies. Besides, hot food also delays in the recovery of the uterus. It is thus advised to opt for proper. We must remember that never include caffeine, nicotine in alcohol in our postnatal diet, because as we know for the bioscience, actually for Miss or Adik or Cik Putri, we know that because you are pharmacology, caffeine, nicotine and alcohol usually hinder in the absorption. So they also can reach the baby through the breast milk, and it is harmful for the baby. So the baby, it is being studied that caffeine, nicotine will hinder for the growth and development. So this is the suggestion diet from my experience that day. I did follow. For the first day, we have to take the breakfast, and then this is the suggestion fruits, the suggestion of the nutrition. Day 1 until day 2, and then day 3, and then day 4. So this is the shopping list, but we must consider the mother's or the woman's economic status. So the message is a simple thought only, Prof. The message from this one is should eat better, not more. Should better, that means in the quality of the nutritional food pyramid. No point we take more, but it is not balanced. They can be achieved by basing diet on a variety of nutrient-dense whole foods, including fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grain, healthy fats with omega. Actually, omega we can take a lot, okay, from the sources, and this one includes nuts, seeds, fish that must be proper in place in a quality amount. So comprehensive improvement in nutrition and health status of women before and during pregnancy will contribute to optimal fetal growth, mother's growth, favorable obstetrical outcome, and improve our perinatal survival as well potential for better long-term health in both mother and offspring and also our family. So it may be an old rambutan, but it do not produce rambutan. Therefore, we must change our culture, our practice, our belief regarding the supplement nutrient. Example, those days, okay, we said for the Malaysian, we said we cannot take a cold drink because cold drink will hinder the mother status. It is missed. But we must encourage the mother to take warm drink. And then we one more, we cannot take kangkung, bayam or green vegetable because they say it can cause some sort frequent pregnancy. It is wrong. So we have to correct their misconception. The important for the nursing, for the medical, for the allied health, we must improve. We must correct their culture and practice. We must avoid the misfacts about the diet during pregnancy, labor, and puerperium. So, I think for the message from what I mean, it is we must correct the about what we must take, what we cannot take. I think that's all, Prof. Reza, from my experience.
Wow. Bagus sekali. Boleh stop screen first, Wan?
Sekejap. I want to
stop aja. Okay.
I stop first, okay.
Jadi dekat Indonesia apa yang Puan sharing barusan dikatakan di sini daging semua.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Sahrul Reza. Saya izin
Sama.
share screen.
Ya, silakan. Selamat datang Mbak Sri Rahayu, mahasiswa Esa Unggul. Ini lagi ada ramai lagi. Oke, very clear, sangat jelas. Biru adalah Esa Unggul.
Yes.
Oke.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Prof. Sahrul Reza for inviting me as a speaker in this event. It's great to see you all here. Today, I'll try to present it in English.
Right.
I'll try.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Firstly, if we talk about giving birth and the breastfeeding period, we have to understand the physiological changes in the mother's body during the period, and then also we have to know about the nutrition's need for support the physiological development of the infants. And let me start. After giving birth, physiological changes occur in the mother's body during postpartum period. And what is the postpartum period? The postpartum period is the period after delivery of conceptus when maternal physiological and anatomical changes return to the pre-pregnant state. And the postpartum period starts following the expulsion of the placenta until complete physiological recovery of various organ system. And the postpartum period divides into 3 phases. The first is acute phase, the first 24 hours after delivery of the placenta. And then the second is early phase, up to 7 days after delivery. And then late phase, up to 6 weeks to 6 months. And each phase has its unique clinical consideration and challenges. And in general, there is generalized physical fatigue immediately after delivery. The pulse rate may be elevated a few hours after childbirth due to excitement or pain, and usually normalized on the second day. And then the blood pressure could be elevated due to pain or excitement, but is generally in the normal range. So if there are a significant decrease in blood pressure, could be a sign of postpartum hemorrhage or septic shock. And conversely, high blood pressure could be a sign of pain or preeclampsia. And then body temperature is slightly elevated up to 37.2 degrees Celsius, along with increased shivering, sweating, or diaphoresis in the first 24 hours and normalized within 12 hours. And the temperature rise is attributable to the systemic absorption of metabolites accumulated due to muscle contraction. Sorry, it's close. No. Okay. And then there could be a transient temperature rise on the 3rd or 4th day due to breast engorgement. And then the respiratory rate also begins to fall back to the pre-pregnancy level within 2 to 3 days. And also there is a weight loss due to the exposure of infant and accompanying blood loss. And for the weight loss of 2 to 3 kilograms can be attributed to the breast diuresis. The weight loss due to diuresis may continue up to 6 months after delivery. And then for reproductive system organs, physiological changes include immediately Following the delivery, the uterus and the placental site contracts rapidly to prevent further blood loss, and then this rapid uterine contraction can lead to abdominal pain or cramps after childbirth. Initially, the contraction of the uterus is due to substantial reduction in myometrial cell size. Myometrial cell size is constrict to blood vessels and limits the bleeding. Okay, and then the cervix and vagina may be edematous and bruised in the early postpartum period and gradually heal back to normal. And then there is a lochia. Lochia is the vaginal discharge that originates from uterus, cervix, and vagina. And the lochia is initially red and comprised of blood and fragments of decidua, endometrial tissues, and mucus at least 1 to 4 days. And then the lochia then change color to yellowish or pale brown, lasting 5 to 9 days, and it's comprised mainly of blood, mucus, and leukocyte. And finally, the lochia is white and contains mostly mucus, lasting up to 10 days to 2 weeks. And lochia can persist up to 5 weeks postpartum. If there is persistence of red lochia beyond 1 week, maybe it is an indicator that there is uterine subinvolutions. And if there are presence of an offensive odor of large pieces of tissue or blood clots in lochia, or the absence of lochia, maybe it is a sign of infection. Okay, and then the secretion from breast for lactation called colostrum increase after childbirth, and the lactogenesis or milk secretion starts the 3rd or 4 days postpartum. And a healthy mother secretes 500 until 800 milliliter of milk per day. And we also learn about it in the next slides. And then the endocrine physiological changes include menstrual period. The onset of the first menstrual period. The onset of the menstrual period following delivery is variable and depends in the mother of lactating or not. If the mother is not breastfeeding, then the menstrual function returns by the 6 to 2 weeks postpartum in most cases. Sorry. Yeah. If the mother is not breastfeeding, then the menstrual function returns by the 6 to 8 weeks postpartum in most of the case. But if the mother lactating or lactating mother, its menstruations usually reappears in 4 to 5 months. And also the level of human chorionic gonadotropin falls dramatically after delivery. Consequently of this, the thyroid gland volume regress to the pre-pregnant state by 12 weeks, and the thyroid functions return to normal by 4 weeks postpartum. And then the insulin sensitivity begins to increase after delivery and becomes restored within 2 to 3 days following delivery. And for renal physiological change in postpartum, there is edematous and hyperemic bladder wall and may be over distance bladder without the urge to pass urine. And the retention of urine in the first few days after labor may be due to the laxity of the abdominal musculature, tone of pelvic floor muscles, atony of bladder, and compression of urethra by edema or hematoma, and also reflex inhibition of micturition due to genitourinary trauma. And conversely, urinary incontinence, especially urge incontinence, is attributed most commonly to physiological stress associated with childbirth. Okay, and then there are also painful micturition or dysuria. It could be due to tears, like laceration of the cervix or vagina. And during pregnancy, the compressive force of the gravid uterus and the progesterone-induced decrease in uteral tone, peristalsis, and contraction pressure lead to the dilatation of the calcial systems, increasing the volume of kidney by 30% from the pre-pregnant state. And the dilated ureters and renal pelvis usually return to the pre-pregnant state within 4 to 8 weeks. And there is increased risk of developing urinary tract infection. It is important to counsel the mother to void every 3 to 4 hours. And then in the postpartum period, there is increased serum level of the atrial natriuretic peptide that inhibits aldosterone, angiotensin II, and vasopressin, and promotes urinary sodium excretion. There is breast diuresis in the first 2 weeks after childbirth, and the glomerular filtration rate returns to baseline at 8 weeks postpartum. Okay, and then the hematocrit value, the hematocrit may initially drop due to blood loss associated with delivery, but starts to rise again. Plasma volume decrease due to diuresis and hemoconcentration, and the hematocrit values return to normal in 3 to 5 days postpartum as plasma volume starts to increase. And then there is 4 to 6 months to restore the pregnancy-induced dip in hemoglobin, and the mothers may develop leukocytosis due to the stress associated with labor, and the gestational thrombocytopenia resolve in 4 to 10 days after delivery. And in the early postpartum period, the fibrinogen levels are still high, and platelets begins to rise to normal values. Okay, in cardiovascular physiological changes include increase cardiac output, and then decrease to the pre-pregnancy values in the 2 weeks postpartum. And the systemic vascular resistance increased to pre-pregnant levels in 2 weeks postpartum, and the systemic blood pressures decreased to pre-pregnant values at 16 weeks postpartum. And then gastrointestinal system physiological changes include maybe the mother may develop flatulence or constipation due to intestinal ileus, loss of body fluids, laxity, or abdominal wall on hemorrhoids. And then acid reflux and associated symptom in pregnancy resolve in the next 3 to 4 days. And also there are changes in physiological of integumentary. Hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation is the most commonly reported skin change during pregnancy, and the pigment change accompanying pregnancy usually disappear by 6 to 8 weeks. And also overstretched abdominal muscle during pregnancy slow to regain their normal tone and elasticity, returning to the pregnancy levels to 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, and there are the physiological changes during postpartum, and now we can see here. This figure describes female breast development from infancy to lactations, and you can see there is a gradual development. There's gradual development of well-differentiated ductular and peripheral lobular alveolar system. And hormones, particularly estrogen, secreted during puberty, stimulates the growth and development of the mammary glands. The most obvious change in the breast is their size, which is due to the deposition of fat. And less visible changes include the growth and development of the milk productions in milk-producing cells. And the network of ducts and that connect the glands to the nipple. This is, and we can see in part D, it's ductular sprouting and intensified peripheral lobular alveolar development in pregnancy. Glandular ruminal cells begin actively synthesize milk fat and protein, but only small amounts are released into lumen. And in this part E, with postpartum withdrawal of luteal and placental sex steroid and placental lactogen, prolactin is able to induce full secretory activity of the alveolar cells and release milk into alveoli and smaller ducts. Okay, this is the anatomy of breast. This is this tissue, the mammary glands, includes the alveoli. This is the alveoli, which are small sacs made of milk secreting cells and the ducts that carry the milk to the outside. And between feet, milk collects in the lumen of the alveoli, and ducts, and the alveoli are surrounded by a basket of myoepithelial cells or mast cells, which contract and make milk which has collected in the alveoli flow along and fill the ducts. And how hormonal control physiology of breast milk production. The mammogenesis or preparation of breast for lactation starts during pregnancy and entails ductal and lobulo-alveolar hyperplasia and hypertrophy. The high levels of estrogen and progesterone make the breast tissue unresponsive to prolactin in pregnancy. Still, as their levels decrease the following childbirth dramatically, the prolactin begins its milk secretory activity in mammary glands. Okay, from hypothalamus, withdrawal of placental and luteal sex hormones and the infant sucking results depression of prolactin inhibition factor and also stimulating of prolactin releasing factor that impair the adenohypophysis to increase prolactin synthesis and release the prolactin into the circulation and cause breast to synthesize milk. And also supportive metabolic hormones like insulin, cortisol, thyroid, parathyroid hormone, growth hormone also supporting breast to synthesize milk. Okay. And This is how hormonal control of lactation. Stimulation of the nipple, by baby suckling. By baby suckling, action potential in secretory neurons is connected with the hypothalamus. And in response, the hypothalamus stimulates the posterior, and hypothalamus stimulate the posterior pituitary to release oxytocin. Okay, this is the neural arc of lactation involves ascending afferents. This is ascending afferents from nipples and areolar, activated by suckling or stimulation of nipples, which pass via thoracic sensory nerves to paraventricular, in hypothalamus, paraventricular and supraopticus nuclei of the hypothalamus, and promoting this synthesis and secretion of oxytocin from the posterior pituitary. And then oxytocin affects the contraction of myoepithelial cells. Oxytocin affects the contraction of myoepithelial cells, leading to galactokinesis or milk expression from the mammary ducts. And this release also known as milk ejection or milk letdown reflex. And the milk ejection reflex can be inhibited by pain, anxiety, depression, breast engorgement, or depression. And then prolactin maintains galactopoiesis, defined as the maintenance of effective and continuous lactations. Okay. Okay. There are 3 types of milk. That is colostrum, the first one, and then transitional milk and mature milk. Colostrum is thin, yellowish, and immature milk may appear from late pregnancy to several days postpartum, and this early milk is richer in protein, minerals, and vitamins, and also the colostrum has less carbohydrate and slightly fewer calories. And it also contains antibodies which provide the infant with defense against some disease during the first few months of life. One component of colostrum, there is the Lactobacillus bifidus factor, encourage the growth of Lactobacillus bifidus bacteria, which limit the growth of potentially toxic bacteria in the infant's large intestine. And the colostrum gradually changed to become transitional milk in the early days after delivery. Transitional milk contains more fat, lactose, and water-soluble vitamins and calories than colostrum. And within a week or so, transitional milk is replaced by mature milk. Mature human milk is thin and almost watery in appearance and often has a slight bluish tinge. It provides about 20 calories per ounce, and with the possible exception of vitamin D and iron, supplies all the nutrients, the growing baby needs. Okay, this is the table, shows the difference of milk content of total protein, lactose, and triglyceride from colostrum, transitional milk, and then mature human milk. This is shows in days. And then mature milk not only contain macronutrients such as carbohydrate, protein, and fat, it also contains minerals and vitamins. Okay, the nutrient and calories demands of lactation on the mother are tremendous in some calcium exceeding dose of pregnancy. The milk secreted by a lactating woman can fulfill her infant's entire nutrient and calorie needs until the infant is approximately 6 months old. So mothers need some nutrient more than non-pregnancy and pregnancy state to produce milk, like water, of course, calorie, protein, mineral, and vitamins such as calcium, magnesium, zinc, folate, and vitamin B. And from this table, we can see that lactation state needs more water and carbohydrate and also protein.
There is 5 minutes more.
Okay, sorry. Okay, this is the mineral intakes and this for vitamin needs. And recommendation of on during of breastfeedings. Some health organization recommend exclusive for 6 months. And then some factors can affect lactation, such as maternal weight, maternal age, maternal eating pattern, socio-cultural factor, and then maternal food supply and maternal life choice. Some of these affecting factors has described, has explained by Puan Taibah before. Okay. And then during the first year, infants will change dramatically in 5 area developments. That is physical development, cognitive development, emotional and social development, language development, sensory and motor skill developments. That all of these kinds process needs to supported by adequate nutrition intake. So infants needs so many nutrients. The rapid growth and high metabolic rate of infants cause their calorie needs, because infants body has a large surface area, and there is not daily protein needs infancy is higher, and then fat is also important part of infants' diets. It provides constituents such as cholesterol and essential fatty acid. And this essential fatty acid is important for normal development of nervous system. And then for carbohydrate, lactose is the primary carbohydrate in the diets of most infants. And also all vitamins and minerals play an important role in supporting normal growth. Okay. For the first several months, the infant will only need breast milk or formula for proper nutrition. But the decisions to breastfeed or formula feed or feed a baby with a combination of this is personally. And when the infant is able to sit upright and in a high chair, and begins showing interest in food, the mothers can start transitioning her infant to solid food with pure foods or cereals that fortified with iron. Okay, this is the comparison among mature human milk, formula milk, and cow milk. That the best choice is still human milk mature.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. It's too long, yes.
Wow, the Y generation very strong. Okay, like now we go to question answer. Many question in email right now, but usually we choose two question for every speakers. The first for Puan Taiba. Very interesting sharing, Prof. Dr. Taiba, I am get the new knowledge from you. Okay, thank you. The question from Nisa, Puan Taiba boleh copy me ya?
Yes, can.
Okay. Dia tanya macam ni. Every mom usually give best food for baby and their children to good grow children with good nutrition.
Yes.
But when children go to school and university, they not apa dikata ya? They not whoever control regard their meal and eat. Okay. Therefore, many of them not healthy, although young old. What can we, this is parent, community, and government do to protect bad lifestyle, especially about to keep healthy weight? Itu pertanyaannya dari Nisa. Kemudian second from Dila, in Malaysia, is there special regulation or rules from the government to protection or apa dikata ni, or regulation, oh ya, saya baca ulang ni, dia kata ni apa ya? Okay, dah apa ya? In Malaysia, is there special regulation or rule for the government to protection of ini apa ini? Of ya kata tadi itu apa?
For healthy lifestyle.
Tak baca tu. Okay, regarding dia kata untuk foods and beverage regarding the selling of bad food and similar it. Itulah kira-kira macam itu. Okay, and then for Tias, very amazing sharing, Miss Tias. Thank you for your smart sharing. From Fina, I am female and must be to become as mom too. I want to ask you regarding breastfeeding. Often we earn that some young mom not happy regard breastfeeding while they give birth to maintain her body and professional career. What do you think about this phenomenon? Okay, paham ya? Maksudnya ini banyak ibu muda tak bagi susu ibu lah supaya lebih macam itulah. Okay, number 2 from Nabila. Right now, many supplement foods easy to get in store and e-commerce platform. My mom last time ago not recommended to use instant food for the children. She create by herself. What you advise about supplement food for baby and children? Okay. Ini ada juga ibu.
Yang kedua tadi apa ya?
Yang kedua dia kata right now many supplement food easy to get in the store and e-commerce platform. My mom, ibu dia lah, last time ago not recommended to use instant food for their children or baby. She created by herself. What you advise about supplement food for baby and children? What you advise? Apa you punya saran lah Tadi ada Ibu Puspa tu siapa tu? Okey, Puan menjawabnya dalam 5 minit lah. Masing-masing 2 orang ni. Okey.
Okay, terima kasih Prof. Reza. Menjawab
Ya.
kepada soalan yang pertama iaitu berkaitan bagaimana mengawal pemakanan kepada adolescent yang melanjutkan pelajaran. Dan soalan yang kedua, apakah polisi di Kementerian Kesihatan di Malaysia? Untuk menjawab soalan, saya rangkumkan kepada kedua-dua sekali itu berkaitan.
Wah. Ya. Boleh
lihat ya. Boleh lihat?
Belum lagi.
Boleh?
Belum lagi.
Belum. Okay. Boleh?
Nah, ini baru boleh.
Okey. Sebenarnya menjawab kepada dua-dua persoalan tadi, pertama sekali kita perlu memperbetulkan konsep ataupun fakta yang betul ataupun yang benar. Berkaitan dengan adolescent semasa di rumah, semasa di kawalan di bawah pengawasan ibu bapa kita boleh kontrol. Tapi apabila ke universiti, kita perlu memberi pendidikan dalam bentuk template ataupun mass media berkaitan dengan healthy food pyramid. Jadi sebelum menjelaskan apa maksud food pyramid, kita perlu menerangkan kepada semua lapisan, iaitu apa di sebalik Maaf, saya sudah tergendala.
Tak apa-apa, antara fact or mitos.
Di sebalik mitos permakanan semasa harian, kehamilan ataupun berpantang. Pertama, kalau saya rasa di seluruh dunia ataupun negara yang sedang membangun, wanita yang hamil perlu makan 2 kali ganda daripada kebiasaan. Itu adalah betul. Kerana mengikut trimester pertama, kedua dan ketiga, bayi sedang membesar. Jadi perlu mengambil pemakanan. Bagaimanapun, apabila remaja sudah membesar, mengikut daripada bidang pediatrik, perkembangan dan tumbesaran akan berlaku berterusan. Terutama sekali adalah berkaitan dengan growth. Jadi growth itu adalah berkaitan dari segi perubahan bentuk badan dan saiz. Jadi sebab itu kita terangkan amount kalori yang mana yang perlu diambil. Contoh, karbohidrat boleh meningkatkan berat badan. Kemudian kalau kita kata vitamin C adalah untuk bagus dari segi mengelakkan jangkitan. Jadi apabila faktor yang betul diberikan kepada remaja tersebut dan bahaya-bahaya kesan sampingan seperti penyakit 3 serangkai, maka saya rasa boleh diperbetulkan. Dan yang kedua, kita perlu menjelaskan apakah kesan sampingan daripada berlebihan pemakanan yang tidak seimbang seperti terdedah pada hypertension, diabetes, kardiovaskular. Dan kita di sebalik mitos tadi, wanita hamil tidak boleh makanan yang sejuk. Jadi kepada remaja tersebut juga kita perlu menerangkan bahayanya tidak boleh makanan yang sejuk seperti tembikai, nanas. Ini bukan saja semasa hamil, bila-bila masa pun. Sebenarnya kalau macam sekarang, contoh saya dah tidak hamil, tapi masih ada faktor iaitu tidak boleh makanan yang sejuk seperti nanas. Jadi ketajaman. Sebenarnya itu adalah faktor yang salah. Sebab nanas selamat dimakan kerana dia mengandungi fosforus dan nutrien yang penting. Jadi apabila kita berikan pendidikan tersebut kepada ibu yang hamil ataupun remaja ataupun semasa penyusuan, maka faktor tersebut boleh diperbetulkan faktor yang salah. Yang berikut adalah kita mengatakan makanan hati penyumbang kepada penglihatan. Itu faktor yang betul. Sebab di dalam hati ada toksin. Makanan hati berpotensi membahayakan fetus kerana banyak mengandungi vitamin E. Kita boleh ambil dengan kadar yang terhad. Kurang-kurangnya itu 2 minggu sekali. Jadi remaja yang berada di universiti perlu kita dedahkan betapa bahayanya mengambil makanan organ dalaman seperti ginjal, hati, usus. sebab makanan tadi banyak mengandungi toksin. Yang berikut adalah makan kacang semasa hamil akan menyebabkan anak kita alahan, iaitu kadang-kadang akan menyebabkan jaundice. Itu adalah salah. Sebab seperti yang saya terangkan tadi, kacang mengandungi banyak biji protein. Jadi perlu, tapi diambil dengan kadar yang digalakkan.
Yes.
Dan menurut pantang larang orang lama, makanan yang berwarna gelap seperti kicap, coklat, kopi akan menyebabkan kulit anda gelap. Itu adalah fakta yang salah. Sebab makanan-makanan seperti tahu, produk kacang mendapatkan kulit anak yang berwarna putih. Itu juga salah. Sebab genetik tidak boleh diubah. Jadi kepada adik-adik yang berada di universiti, kita perlu tekankan fakta-fakta tersebut adalah salah. Sebab itu pentingnya pendidikan kesihatan kepada setiap lapisan. Dan yang elakkan makanan sayuran terutama salad. Yang ni boleh jadi betul ataupun boleh jadi salah. Sebab salad sebenarnya perlu diambil, tetapi jika dalam keadaan sejuk tidak bagus sebab ia banyak mengandung bakteria yang sesuai hidup pada tempat yang sejuk. Jadi ambil selepas betul-betul dibersihkan. Kefir seperti yang saya terangkan tadi. Sebab ini berdasarkan kepada kajian daripada UK, kefir yang terlalu banyak menyebabkan tumbesaran. Jadi kepada adik-adik lapisan universiti, kita perlu terangkan, kefir ataupun yang fast drinks tu, dia banyak mengandungi kefir yang boleh menyempitkan saluran darah. Dengan itu segala hormon, nutrien akan kurang kepada pengaliran kepada otak yang boleh menjejaskan pada kognitif kita. Jadi elakkan makanan mentah memang betul sebab di dalam makanan mentah ada toksoplasma dan juga ada salmonella. Jadi kita kena terangkan kepada adik-adik dan ibu-ibu, ambil makanan yang betul. Untuk yang kedua berkaitan dengan undang-undang ataupun guideline pada Malaysia, kita ada My Portal Health untuk Healthy Eating Pyramid kepada ibu-ibu hamil, kepada semasa pantang dan juga semasa harian. Jadi kita ikut food pyramid. Saya rasa di Indonesia pun ada yang sama. Betul kan?
Yes.
Jadi ini adalah food pyramid, lebihkan protein, vitamin dan kurangkan karbohidrat. Tetapi semasa hamil kita lebihkan sedikit sebab untuk tumbesaran. Itu saja.
Wow. Jadi Puan ni bukan main lah. Daging memang lah. Dah senior lecturer ni. Boleh stop dulu Puan. Stop. Tadi boleh stop screen ke? Tadi Puan kata makan hati. Itu makan hati apa? Makan hati lembu ke hati?
Bukan makan hati organ. Hati yang kita beri hati ayam, hati lembu. Kita makan hati sakit hati.
Nah, ini anak tanya je, takut joke nanti sakit hati. Okey, tapi tadi menarik tu Puan menjawab 2 question dalam satu answer yang komprehensif. Saya sebelum Cik Tias nak jawab, saya mau bagi dia 2 pertanyaan tapi kena jawab satu saja, kejawab kedua-duanya ya. Okey, siap-siap ya. Miss Tias ya. Ini pertanyaan dari saya ni, bukan dari partisipan. Okey. Ada seorang ibu baru melahirkan anak. Kalau Puan Taibah mau jawab pun boleh juga. Ada seorang ibu melahirkan anak. Anaknya itu kemudian akan dibagi nama. Dia tanya pada suaminya, Pah atau ayah, ini anak kita beri nama siapa? Ayahnya baru nak jawab, datang pula anak yang nombor 1. Ini mulai anak 2 lah. Anak nombor 1 datang dari teras, dia bilang, ayah, pokok bunga sudah layu semua. Terus ayahnya bingung nak jawab maknya dulu atau anaknya dulu. Cik Tias, apa kira-kira yang dijawab oleh ayahnya? Satu jawaban boleh berlaku untuk maknya juga, untuk anaknya yang nombor 1 juga. Apa dia jawab? Ayo, Mbak Tias. Apa jawaban bapaknya ya? Kalau tak boleh jawab kalah ya. Bapaknya jawab Siramlah katanya. Jadi nama anaknya Siramlah, jadi
Oh,
pokoknya
ya,
siram
faham.
juga.
Jawab 2 sekali.
Iya, itu yang
Siramlah.
Puan Taibah tadi 2 pertanyaan jawab sekali, saya pun nak tiru jugalah.
Okey.
Tapi itu teka-teki itu, bukan
Ya,
pertanyaan yang
betul,
betul.
betul.
Okey,
Siramlah.
jadi masa kecil dulu teka-teki, teka-teko, ular mati menghisap rokok. Apa
Ya.
namanya itu? Apa Mbak Tias? Oh, nggak tahu dia karena dia lahirnya tahun 80 ke 90.
Oh, ya.
Itu adalah obat nyamuk yang pusing-pusing dulu, obat
Pusing.
nyamuk yang pernah lihat nggak Mbak Tias obat nyamuk yang muter-muter itu?
Lingkaran yang berlingkar.
Itu teka-teki, teka-teko, ular mati isap rokok. Itulah jawabannya, obat nyamuk.
Betul, betul.
Zaman
Bagus
dulu
sekali.
zaman dulu nggak ada obat nyamuk spray itu, tak ada
Tidak
Baygon, tak
ada.
ada, yang ada macam tu je lah. Jadi karena itu adalah hal-hal yang unik zaman dulu. Okey, Encik Tias silahkan jawab 2 pertanyaan dalam 45 minit karena kita ada last song before closing remark, please.
Oke, terima kasih Prof. Syahrul.
Ya.
Ya, untuk yang pertama ini untuk ibu yang
Mudah.
tidak happy ya, ibu muda yang tidak happy untuk breastfeeding
Ya.
ya, dan
Ah.
kesulitan untuk memberikan ASI untuk anaknya. Nah, permasalahan untuk memberikan ASI ini bergantung juga pada apakah dari aktivitas ibunya yang memang sulit untuk mengatur waktunya atau juga memang karena ada permasalahan dalam produksi ASI-nya, seperti itu. Nah, kalau memang yang
Atau
bermasalah di
masalah
sini
lifestyle-nya, nggak
ya.
mau biar lebih langsing, apa namanya, nggak tahu. Oke.
Ya, masalahnya bisa karena aktivitas ibunya ya, lebih ke ya oke lifestyle gitu, atau juga bisa terjadi karena memang produksi ASI-nya yang memang sedikit gitu. Nah, produksi ASI sendiri bisa berkurang, itu tadi juga sudah dijelaskan bahwa kondisi emosional ibunya juga mempengaruhi produksi ASI. Sehingga jika ada emosi, kelelahan, ataupun misalnya stres gitu ya, itu juga bisa menghambat produksi prolaktin gitu, sehingga produksi ASI-nya berkurang. Dan kalau untuk case yang seperti ini mungkin bisa konsultasi dengan dokter untuk bisa diresepkan Galactogok gitu ya, atau mungkin juga biasanya Galactogok ini bisa berupa obat yang diresepkan oleh dokter atau bisa juga dari beberapa herbal mungkin ada yang bisa bertindak sebagai Galactogok. Hanya saja belum ada penelitian yang memastikan bahwa Galactogok yang dari herbal ini memang benar aman untuk dikonsumsi terus-menerus, seperti itu. Tapi kalau misalnya memang karena aktivitas ibunya yang sulit ya untuk memberikan ASI, itu memang salah satu faktor yang mempengaruhi laktasi tadi adalah dari ibunya sendiri ini apakah mengetahui, memahami betul bahwa ASI ini ternyata banyak manfaatnya, terutama untuk bayinya gitu ya. Dan ibu ini juga harus mempelajari mengenai permasalahan-permasalahan terkait ASI tersebut, produksi ASINya dan bagaimana cara mengatasinya. Dan juga salah satu faktor yang tidak kalah pentingnya adalah support dari partnernya, dari suaminya, dari keluarganya, atau dari lingkungan kerjanya, seperti itu. Dan kalau kondisinya memang karena aktivitas yang rutin mungkin bisa dengan pumping ASI ya, menyimpan ASI-nya dulu gitu. Nanti setelah itu baru diberikan kepada bayinya. Jadi bayinya ini tetap mendapatkan ASI gitu, meskipun tidak secara langsung dari suckling gitu ya, gitu.
Oke.
Kemudian untuk
Disebutkan.
kemudian untuk suplemen untuk bayi, beberapa memang tidak merekomendasikan suplemen untuk bayi gitu ya. Nah, ini sangat tergantung sebenarnya dari kondisi bayinya itu sendiri dan juga dari kondisi laktasinya. Sebenarnya jika nutrisi ibu untuk fase laktasi itu terpenuhi, kandungan yang ada di dalam ASI itu sudah sangat baik untuk bayi. Cukup dengan ASI gitu. Hanya saja ada beberapa kondisi yang tidak memungkinkan untuk full ASI eksklusif sehingga harus diberi tambahan formula gitu. Tapi tentu itu juga harus berkonsultasi dengan dokter. Dan ketika mulai untuk memberikan solid food gitu ya, itu juga perlu dipertimbangkan komponen dari solid food-nya itu sendiri. Untuk bayi juga untuk bayi itu belum terlalu banyak perlu serat memang, tapi tidak banyak sekali gitu, sehingga kalau terlalu banyak seratnya nanti kalorinya sedikit gitu ya, dan serat ini juga bisa mengikat mineral dan menghambat absorpsi mineralnya, sementara mineral itu diperlukan oleh bayi tersebut gitu. Jadi
Oke.
selama kebutuhan nutrisi ibu untuk fase laktasi itu dipenuhi, sebenarnya kandungan ASI-nya sendiri sudah cukup, jadi tidak perlu suplemen untuk
Yes,
bayi. Tetapi dalam kondisi tertentu mungkin memerlukan gitu.
perlukan.
Tapi ya kembali lagi itu perlu konsultasi juga dengan dokter bagaimana kondisinya. Dan
Yes,
mungkin ada beberapa pengecekan terlebih dahulu kali ya sebelum
iya,
dianjurkan untuk memberikan suplemen seperti itu.
iya, yes.
Ya
Kalau
begitu.
nggak mempan hubungi dokter. Seperti itu.
Ya karena memang kalau
Jadi,
untuk bayi agak riskan kalau kita
ya,
menentukan
betul.
sendiri tanpa ada pengecekan di awal. Jadi memang harus
Benar-benar.
ada pengecekan dulu.
Benar-benar. Itu pengalaman saya sendiri, Puan Taiba dan